you noticed? Have you gotten the summary of what Gavin Newsom's court case? He succeed in getting his name on the first part of the ballot?
Real quick, I need to inform you we are live. So everything you say is being broadcast live, although
Sure.
the show is not officially going to start for 12 minutes. I have not heard a resolution to the court case. I do know that the governor is attempting to sue or do some sort of legal action to get his party attached to his name. For whatever reason, he was unable to do that during these last couple months. So he had plenty of time to talk about how the recall was bad, but he had no time to actually file the correct paperwork. He's calling it
Right, right.
so whatever you think of that. Um, I would think that would be not a good look, right? You're saying, hey, I'm competent, I'm the governor, don't do this recall. Whoops, I couldn't remember or have any of my staff remind me to put my party next to my name.
Right. It shows his incompetence, and also he's worried that his the Democratic members, the Democrats might not recognize him as a Democrat.
I also found that bizarre. Like, you're the most well-known politician in California. Why are you concerned people aren't going to know who you are? I didn't like. They're going to read that Gavin Newsom and go, "Oh, Gavin Newsom, the Tea Party member." Where, who are these people in California that aren't going to know he's a Democrat? Who is that an issue for? I found that bizarre and strange. Like, really, people don't know you're a Democrat? This is a majority Democratic state. You're the top Democratic official. You've been on TV for years. Everybody knows your name, but you're worried they're not going to know you're a Democrat? Okay. I don't know. And I was like, you think it's a good idea to go on TV and say you made a mistake on this? I mean,
Yes.
you thought that makes you look good to go, oh, hey, it's
I
honest
know.
mistake. Okay. These are
It
calls he's
seems
taking.
it seems he's compounding his mistakes even further.
I'm not taking a side. I'm just asking questions. I'm like, you're a sitting governor and you're telling everybody, I'm worried people know I'm a Democrat and I wasn't able to file the paperwork correctly. I mean, this is what you're broadcasting as governor. You're putting this out there and saying, here's these statements I'm making. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying, interesting that a sitting governor would do that. Controversial takes. Many times people would not want to appear as though they couldn't file paperwork, and people would also not want to indicate that they don't have name recognition, but he's broadcasting both. So interesting.
Right.
That's all I can say about that.
Yes. That's about summarizes it very well.
Let me do this. One second, let me get the... All right. Shioura. Just a minute, I'm still getting things ready.
Okay.
Oops.
Oh, and also it's been announced that the election is going to be on. Is it September the 12th?
I do not have that information.
I see.
That could be right. I just don't want to present information and have it be wrong. So
I see.
That, let me double check. But because there's not a lot of coverage on this, and we are the only group that's really been doing these, and so I don't want to provide bad information. We worked really hard to let everybody know the signature gathering requirements were due this week, that just to get information out, but we stopped short of saying what exactly people should do, just to let them know to check that into that. Trying to keep candidates informed of the requirements to participate.
Yeah, yeah, right. I really appreciate it. Uh,
We tried to inform everybody. We tried to inform every candidate. We got a lot of thank yous. We didn't say what to do. We just said, hey, you have to do these signature gathering requirements, and you have days, if not hours, to pull this together, and you probably don't even know. A couple different candidates said thank you.
Okay, go on. Go, venga, Jorge, venga, adentro. Come on. Venga. Come on, Archie. Come on. They know they're going to the room. Okay, bye. Bye-bye.
the dogs.
No, I'm talking to the dogs so they get in here. Come on, Archie. Gotta cheat on them. Okay, I love you. Frank, can I talk to you?
Yeah.
You let me know when I can.
John, what's the address?
I'll give you the address, but it's
Please leave your message for Fuji, Shioura.
Okay. We will start in about 3 minutes. We're waiting for the other candidate to be here. We will be starting in about 3 minutes. The debate will be between Professor Wade and candidate Fuji Shioura, the only elected official in the recall candidate debates. Hey.
Hey, yes, I'm getting ready now.
Okay, yep.
I'm going to log in for Wade. Is Wade there?
Yes.
Okay, coming on.
Okay.
All right.
We will be starting in 2 minutes. We will be starting in 1 minute. We will be starting in 1 minute. Candidate Shioura has said he'll be here momentarily. The debate will be between Professor Wade and elected official Shioura on the topics of cryptocurrency and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The topics were selected by the candidates, not by the moderator. My job is to make sure that questions are asked fairly and that each candidate has the same amount of time. Fuji, hey.
Yes, hello.
Okay, we're going to get started right on time. Let me go to commercial. I'll come out and we'll introduce the show.
Thank
Hello, my name is Marcus Ruiz-Evans. This is the Yes California one-on-one special debates. Yes California is hosting a series of debates of all declared candidates for the upcoming governor's election. Each candidate has the opportunity to challenge or ask any other candidate to a one-on-one debate about any topic they want. Candidate Wade and candidate Fuji Shioura agreed to debate each other one-on-one about the topics of cryptocurrency and Israel. We're going to allow a 2-minute introductory statement, as we normally do, per candidate to explain who they are, what they're about, or to take a stance on the issues of cryptocurrency in Israel before we get to the actual questions. It's up to them to do what they'd like. We'll start first with Professor Wade and then go to candidate Fuji Shioura. Professor Wade, let me unmute you. 1 second.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, sir. A 2-minute introductory opening statement starting now. Professor Wade.
Okay, yeah, well, my statement is my background. I have a doctorate in hey, will you please, I have somebody here that oh boy, I have a doctorate in business administration from Golden Gate University, and I have a CPA, and I have 40 years of executive experience in working overseas. And the last 10 years, I've been teaching at universities, basically in Muslim countries. And while I was working overseas, I worked for USAID. I got a special award for work against apartheid in South Africa. And I've been teaching the last 10 years as mostly Muslim universities in an effort to reduce the amount of misconceptions towards the U.S. People have extreme jihadi or Muslim influences. And basically, I'm here as a candidate because I was lost my visa in Bangladesh, and so I'm back in the States trying to go back to work in Muslim countries. In the meantime, I feel it's an opportunity for me to run for governor because people like me do not go into politics because they can usually work in companies or in universities. So it's a great opportunity for me to try to improve things in the state because I see so many wrong things going on by the governor.
Thank you. 2-minute opening statement by candidate Shioura. You are unmuted,
You
sir.
need your phone.
I left
Yes,
my
thank
phone at
you.
home.
Yeah, well, I'll get your phone and then we got to get there.
One
And
second.
I
I don't
guess,
need to pick up my
1
phone.
second.
Just need you to
I will
drive.
mute
well, no,
you.
because I'm going to be involved in the next 2 hours
1
on
second.
this.
Trying to mute the other candidates so that we can get candidate Shioura.
Then it's fine. But to do this is to
For
kill
some
me.
reason,
Well, I'll get your phone. I'll get your phone and
Give
then
me
I'll
1
bring you
second. I
there.
You
don't.
always say yes,
don't
I
know.
think you got a problem, and then here I'm stuck. I'm not gonna
1
make it to my
second while I
appointment.
try to get that mic muted. I don't know why that's
I'm
not
still on the line with them.
there.
Well, I want to say thank you, Marcus, and I want to thank Dr. Fred Henry for being here. Um, I think it's so great for me to have the opportunity to debate with somebody like Frank Wade, Dr. Frank Henry Wade. He's, I think, an amazing candidate. I'm really privileged to be here to debate him. I'm so honored. This is the 4th of July, and he brings so much wisdom and talent to the election and to the candidacy. And I'm just so excited to be here. And I will also say that I'm running, like him, to do positive change. And also, as an elected official, I wanted to say thank you, Marcus. I wanted to say thank you to the organization Yes California, and thank you for giving an opportunity to lesser known candidates running for California governor like myself and Dr. Frank Henry Wade. So my name is Fuji, Family, Unity, Justice, Integrity. My website is www.governor.life. Thank you.
You have an additional minute if you'd like to take it.
Well, I want to do one more additional minute. You know, this is the 4th of July. And I just want to tell people, you know, when you look at the video of Dr. Frank Henry Wade, he's a human being. He's a Californian. And, I like the guy. And I think, while we may have technical difficulties like you may have witnessed now, that's just a minor. It happens to me and happens to everybody. I encourage the audience to please be patient. I found him to be very interesting and very engaging. And I'm honored to be here with him and you, Marcus. Thank you.
We're waiting for Professor Wade to come back into the stream. There he is. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Both candidates have completed their introductory statements. We're now going to go to the first question. Let's start with Israel. Both candidates have wanted to talk about that. It's a particularly controversial subject. We'll also cover cryptocurrency, but let's get into this first. How would you, as a governor candidate, describe the situation recently that's captured global attention on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Who did wrong? Who did right? Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? What are people supposed to think? We'll go to Professor Frank Wade first for 2 minutes, and then we'll go to Fuji Shioura for 2 minutes. Professor Wade, how would you characterize the recent Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? How should people think about it? You are unmuted.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I must say is that I'm dedicated to helping Israel. I support all the military hardware we give them and all the aid that we give them. And at the same time, though, I love the Palestinian people. I feel that we shouldn't turn our back on the Palestinian people, that we need to enrich Palestine and try to involve both countries in a financial interrelationship, so they need one another. And what it seems to me, the last oh boy, hey, listen, I'm gonna have to take a recess for a couple of minutes to drive this person somewhere. Can I be back in about 2 minutes?
Sure. Stay on the stream. I'll mute you. Okay, we're going to go to candidate Shioura instead for a introductory 2-minute statement. How would you characterize the conflict?
Let me just say something really quick. I do believe Dr. Frank Henry Wade is a veteran. I just want to throw that out there, that we should all give him patience and consideration for his service. I just want to say that it is the 4th of July. And during the Vietnam era, the great American heroes. So I just want to say that first and foremost. Thank you, Marcus. Now, going to your question, Israel, the state of Israel and the state of Palestine, they are both in need of a two-state solution. And because of the overwhelming military force of the Israeli Defense Forces, I do view that the overwhelming force was unnecessary. It was disproportionate to the women and children and innocent people in Gaza and in so many places that's being affected by this conflict. And I also want to say that it's very concerning that what's going on in that area in the world, because instability in that area could affect world trade and the oil supply, and it could cause other instabilities in that area. So at this moment, regarding in 2021, I do feel the Palestinian people in Gaza specifically are in the innocent. Because here's the thing, if the Israeli Defense Force have the most modern, effective military in the world, which it is highly motivated, high morale, it has a complete air, sea, land embargo. How do these weapons of so-called thousands of rockets in Gaza land in Israel? How did they get the supplies? Are we going to assume that Hamas had some kind of secret tunnel all the way to Lebanon or Egypt or Iran? That's ridiculous. No, this is a false flag operation where innocent women and children are getting bombarded. Gaza is part of Palestine. I do believe in the two-state solution, and I also propose now is the time to start recognizing Palestine as a state of Palestine, as a non-observer state, which it is recognized in the United Nations. And for a genuine peace to occur, we need to start recognizing Palestine as a sovereign country eventually. And that means reopening a consulate or mission, at least here in the United States, and eventually give them full embassy access. That would include opening up a United States embassy in the Gaza City territory. So now to get that peaceful dialogue going. That's where I stand, and I do hope and pray for a two-state solution to bring peace for Israelis and Palestinians alike, for the state of Palestine and for the state of Israel. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask you a second question, and then hope that by the time you answer that, Professor Wade will be able to come on, and then I'll give him the same amount of time as you got. So the question, you may have already answered it, but in 2 minutes, if you could explain, what is the solution to the Israeli-Palestinian issue going forward? What's the solution that people should hit on? You may have already touched on that, but for 2 minutes, if you could talk about that.
The real solution is this, Marcus, and to my fellow candidates, we as candidates could say a lot. In the state of California, it's very important to remember that we have the most members of Congress in any state. So as governor, we do have immense amount of influence on foreign policy. Also, California, we have a large population of Israelis, Palestinians, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and that's great. I love our diversity in the state of California. So as a candidate for California, this impacts us all, especially as a candidate. So one way to do it is allow a Palestinian International Congress to allow the Palestinian community within Palestine and outside of Palestine, here in the US and other countries, to have an international Congress so they could vote for elected leaders. Because right now, the government or the powers that be in the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank or in Gaza simply cannot govern, either through threat or intimidation or corruption or nepotism on their part. So we need to have more young, peace-loving Palestinians that do want peace for both countries to run for elected office for the Palestinian government. So I would recommend to have more international participation. And one way to do that, Marcus, I have a proposal as a candidate for California governor. My proposal is this. Under California election law, we're allowed to request international observers. I would request some Palestinian mission, diplomatic mission, be it in Australia or London, or wherever it may be, to come to California and observe our gubernatorial election as an international observer to start the slow, gradual process of being part of the international community. So that's one of the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mute you. We're getting a little bit of feedback. Professor Wade, are you available to answer the question, sir? I'm unmuting Professor Wade. We will wait for a response. Professor Wade, are you
Yeah.
available?
Just give me about. Yeah, I'm available. Basically, what he talked about the military solution. The Israelis have to defend themselves. I have to um, recognize the fact that they have to defend themselves, and the response was not uh, incorrect. Um, but basically, we have a responsibility to to protect the Israelis, and to at the same time we have to
Okay.
commit
Yeah,
to the
continue.
Palestinians. See,
Perfect.
my whole point is that President Trump, in his trying to bring an end to the conflict, was sort of along the correct lines, but he
Okay.
failed to really
Gotta
get
go.
the
Let's go.
support of the Palestinians in his peace initiative. He was trying to enrich the he was trying to enrich the Palestinians so they would be better life. But at the same time, he did not get their approval in the initiative. Additionally, it should be worked out that the Palestinian economy should be connected with the Israelis, so they need one another, and so the future of Palestine will be tied to Israel. There's an analogy that I make in my background. I'm an expert in South Africa, and before the solution of South Africa through the democratic election of Mandela, the predecessor of de Klerk was F.W. Botha. No, P.W. Botha, as opposed to F.W. de Klerk. Anyway, P.W. Botha had the constellation of southern states, and they had 10 independent homelands, which were given basic independence within South Africa. South Africa keeping the foreign policy and some other aspects of their states in the white government control. But nevertheless, two of these states, Bophuthatswana and Transkei, were very looked upon the government of South Africa neutrally or somewhat favorably because they were economically interdependent with South Africa. I'm not saying that this is a complete solution, but I must say historically that in these two independent homelands, they did not take action to end the apartheid government because they were economically tied to the apartheid government. And so using that as an analogy, in Bophuthatswana, they had the gambling center of Sun City, and they had the platinum mines of Rustenburg. In Transkei, they had the economic farmland of which was developed by South African help, and they also had an industrial park, the Kaiser Manzanita Industrial Park. These people were content to live within the South African structure because they were economically interdependent and they had prosperity. So whatever the situation, how much the Palestinians disliked the Israeli government, if they were given economic interdependence and prosperity, they would not they probably won't take up arms against Israel. And I feel this is one solution that hasn't been tried in the conflict between Israel and Palestine. As I say, Trump bordered on this, but Trump did not really fulfill this. They made a reference to economic development in Palestine, but they didn't try to develop Palestine where Palestine would be interdependent with Israel and the prosperity of Israel and Palestine would be intertwined. This, I feel, is the answer to the conflict between Israel and Palestine.
Thank you. Let's go to candidate Shioura. Response to that. Is the professor right? Is he wrong? What parts do you disagree with? Let me unmute you real quick. Candidate Shioura, how would you respond to candidate Wade's statements? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with?
Dr. Frank Henry Wade had made some very compelling arguments, and I want to thank him for that. But unfortunately, I believe the Israeli government is not interested in apartheid. They are simply waiting for time, buying for time, for the time when Jordan will become a majority democracy under Palestinian rule. And then when that happens, it is my belief, my assumption, my hypothesis, my geopolitical educated guess that Israel plans to do as much relocation, force or voluntary relocation, as many Palestinians as possible from Gaza to the West Bank to Jordan when it becomes a majority Palestinian democracy. And that manner, eliminating the whole question altogether of the Palestinians' right to return. So this is something very serious. And also I want to remind people that Israel has a very strong military alliance that we are only learning of right now with China, with the People's Republic China, or the CCP specifically. And so this is very concerning. And I also say that, the state of Israel will do what's necessary in their mind or their interest to protect their citizens. And I also remind people that, yes, the city of Israel is, as far as we know, a nuclear powerhouse. They do have nuclear weapons, and they will use it if threatened. Israel has legitimate concerns for the safety of their citizens. Make that very clear. Likewise, however, we need a two-state solution because destabilization of the entire region at the cost of the Palestinians is not the way to go. Is not the way to do it. And under Trump's administration, unfortunately, in 2018, the Palestinian mission was no longer in Washington, D.C. Why? Why is President Biden waiting so long? Why don't we have a Palestinian mission in Washington, D.C.? For God's sake, diplomacy, unconditional diplomacy communication is essential to preventing suffering and war. This is why it's so important to have a consulate, to have an embassy here and in Gaza City. So unfortunately, the way things are going now, apartheid is not even an equation in the state of Israel. It is slow, methodical, calculated, and intentional displacement of the Palestinian people from the state of Palestine. Okay, so there you have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Wade, what parts of what candidate Fuji Shioura is saying do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Professor Wade.
Yeah, well, the whole thing, he makes some assumptions that are just not true. There's never been a discussion of having the Palestinians from Gaza going to Jordan. And also, I have to remind you that I'm an expert in the Middle East, having spent about 7 years in Saudi Arabia, 1 year in Jordan, and I've had multiple assignments in Egypt. Jordan is the Hashemite dynasty, and the Saudi king flipped areas of Saudi Arabia to Jordan. Saudi Arabia occupied half of most of Jordan in the Aqaba, which is well known. They still have Saudi street signs and Saudi infrastructure that is labeled the government of Saudi Arabia. The Hashemite kingdom was in the Hejaz, which was the keepers of the holy cities of Mecca, Medina, and Jeddah, and Taif, which was the central part of Western Saudi Arabia. And when the Saudis, that their tribal royalty started in um, Riyadh, when they united all of Saudi Arabia under the with the help of Franklin D. Roosevelt and the and the permission of the UK, the Hashemite kingdom of the Hejaz switched land in Saudi Arabia for the Saudi land, which is now Jordan or Transjordan. So the Hashemite kingdom came into Jordan. So it's always going to be a kingdom, the Hashemite, and because the Saudis put it there to make Jordan a Palestinian democracy is almost hysterically funny. The Saudis would laugh at that. The Hashemite kingdom, it will stay there forever as long as the Saudis stay there forever, and the Hashemite kingdom will not accept people from Gaza unless they intend so. And there's never been any record of the Gaza people to be relocated in Jordan. What happened was in 1948, when Israel came into existence, some Palestinians entered Jordan, and then in 1967, some more entered Jordan as refugees, and the Jordanian government let them come in Jordan itself. You have three layers of people, not in any hierarchy, but there's three groups. First, you have the Saudi royalty and the Saudi tribe people that came in from the Hejaz. Then you have the indigenous Jordanian people that were there when it was part of Saudi Arabia and before the tribal, and then you have the Palestinians that have come in recently. So you have basically three people of Jordan, and they're very content under the king, and nothing's going to upset that. Now, Israel has never said that they want to displace the Palestinians. All the Israelis have said is that they want to establish new settlements. And this has been resisted by the rest of the world because they feel that the settlements belong to the Palestinian people. They want to have settlements in the area of the West Bank and Gaza. These were areas that Israel occupied after the 6-Day War. So that issue of the settlements, I really, I haven't made a determination as to what can be done about the settlements except to slow them down. I have no problem with the settlements being made if Palestinians can live in those settlements. But basically, you have a stalemate now. You have the Palestinians in occupied the West Bank and Gaza, and the Israelis in Israel proper, and it has to be resolved. Should it be a one-state solution or should it be a second-state solution? But I say just ignore that. You have Palestinian resources, people, and you have the ability to create businesses. I say whatever the situation is, develop some businesses in the Palestinian area and make them interdependent with Israel. And when the Palestinians realize their fortunes belong with Israel, they will not wage war. They will try to wage peace. Now, in using the analogy of South Africa evolved into a democracy. The whole process of the well, okay, I give him a chance. Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. So, lots there. Want to break it up. Fuji, your response. Agree, disagree? And in about 3 minutes, we're going to move on to cryptocurrency. So, Fuji, sure.
I respectfully disagree with my fellow candidate, Dr. Frank Henry Wade, who brings a lot of, but unfortunately, the demographics of Jordan's. So I believe the ruling government at the moment from a kingdom to a democracy, because the overwhelming demographics of Palestinians throughout the decades, it shows the trend to be overwhelmed as a country. Number two, I do my fellow members to always pursue peace. I think this is something that Dr. Frank Henry Wade and I agree on, that we have to find a peaceful solution to this. War is not an option for either the state of Israel or for the state of Palestine. But I would also say I have an online petition called change.org/state of Palestine. And I encourage you to sign it. And what is the petition state? Is just let's start together using the term state of Palestine. Is it how are we going to find peace between the state of Palestine and Israel, state of Israel? Is it a two-state, one state, three states? So that is a complicated question. But at least we could use the right words as candidates. And I would like to politely inquire and ask my fellow candidates, can you say now, would you be willing to call Palestine the state of Palestine so we could start the diplomatic process of having peaceful, productive negotiations towards peace for the Israelis and Palestinian people? Thank you.
Professor Wade?
Well, so I didn't get his last words, but I did get the idea. Do I want the establishment of the Palestinian state? Of course, I do, but I think it's premature. I think the first thing you have to do is have a peace, and then to develop into the one state or two state solution, having achieved peace. And I think peace can only be achieved by having the Palestinians and the Israelis love one another. And they can do this by economic interdependency and the the economic development in the Palestinian areas. See, to just say that there be an arbitrary state or once Israel is going to be declared one country and the Palestinians become Israeli citizens, that's one route to do it, or have two independent states with diplomatic relations. That's another route. But a peace won't be achieved until the two sides love one another and cease hostilities. And this can only be achieved through the economic interdependence. Just to use the analogy of where I spent a lot of time in South Africa, Bophuthatswana, the people of Bophuthatswana is about 1 million people. They had good jobs, and they had economic interdependency with South Africa. So at the time of their independence, which was 1978, I believe it was almost 12 years before the ultimate solution of South Africa was achieved. They were content to live under the situation, which was unfair, incidentally, for the rest of South Africa, but they were economically very content to be interdependent with South Africa. So I say use the same analogy with Palestine. Give the Palestinian jobs and let them live economically well. Then decide on what the political situation will be. Because right now they're suffering. They don't have the prosperity and the economic level that the Israelis have. Let them have this economic development, and then whatever the solution, whatever the political solution is decided upon, they will abide by it, because basically economic development is the most important thing to a lasting peace. And the other point, which is made of just one last point with Jordan, the good king, which is very popular, might favor more democratic activity like a parliament, but ultimately the Jordan is in the hands of the Hashemite dynasty. It's the last. At one time, the Hashemites controlled about 8 countries, including Egypt and Iraq and Turkey. So they're not going to let the royal family will not depart from Jordan. It's the last of the Hashemite dynasty, and their existence is very beneficial to the Middle East. And the Saudis won't allow that to happen. Also,
Okay. We're going to have a hard stop in 9 minutes. So my question to the candidates is, would you like to continue the conversation on Israel, or would you like to move to cryptocurrency? Candidate Shioura.
I would like to talk about Israel and Palestine and cryptocurrency. I would like to merge. I would like to propose a question. I would be in favor, as governor of California, to allow a cryptocurrency called the Bitcoin, Pitcoin. It will be a Palestinian cryptocurrency.
Candidate Shioura froze. Oh, there you are. Yes.
I would be in favor of a. So I was wondering, what would my fellow candidate think of that? That would give some form of independence for the Palestinian people, and I would allow it to be used here in California.
Question to Professor Frank Wade. Would you like to move on to
yeah.
cryptocurrency?
Well, since we're on the subject of cryptocurrency, now first of all, I have to state one of my aspects of my campaign is selling my book. I've written a book. It's called Hamilton Was Correct. The U.S. Dollar will remain strong forever, comma, warning the coming crash of gold. Okay, without going into my book, just to summarize, I state in my book that the U.S. dollar is the supreme currency on earth, the major currency on earth. Nothing will replace it. Nothing will replace it. And we became the major currency after the Bretton Woods Conference in 1948, I believe it was, or 1954, I believe me, correction. And it was because the pound sterling was not as flexible as a dollar, and we had more gold in Fort Knox than the British had. So the U.S. dollar became the supreme currency on earth. All foreign exchanges, import, export exchanges are resolved through the use of the dollar, and that will never change. It will never be replaced by anything. Now, this is after Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971. So because we became the major currency after the pound sterling was replaced, because we had more gold than the British did, there's no way that any country can replace us because they have more gold than we do. There's no way to replace us. We are the major currency on earth. If the Chinese think they have more dollars than we do, then we can just print some more dollars through through the Federal Reserve Bank. So, and now in recent history, people have challenged the U.S. dollar and see what happened to them. Gaddafi had the Mutaba conference of the 1980s and 90s, and he said that all oil had to be paid with gold dinars. Look what happened to him. Saddam Hussein said that the oil of Iraq had to be paid with euros. Now, look what happened to him. Now, remember, in both invasions, we ransacked the treasury. So never, ever could both countries ever come to the place again where they had the organization to try to challenge the dollar. Both the treasury was sacked in Benghazi, or the capital of Libya, and the treasury building was sacked in Baghdad. This was to prevent ever Iraq or Libya ever challenging the dollar. I can tell you, and you can quote me, forever forever. Cryptocurrency will not last. Cryptocurrency of all types is a failure. Those involved with cryptocurrency will lose all their money. Those involved in cryptocurrency will ultimately lose their money and end up in jail. Uh, the cryptocurrency will not last. It is a fool's effort to be involved in cryptocurrency. Why? Because the US dollar is supreme and the US dollar will remain supreme. That's my point right there. Now, the other point I make in my book is let's revisit the Constitutional Convention of 1787, where the states gave up the right to print money to the federal government. Now, people have been discussing why don't the states involve another convention and take some power from the federal government. Mark Levin, who I listen to on the radio, is a proponent of this. I don't like everything Mark Levin states, but one thing he says, which is right on, that the states can take back some power. I, as governor, want to take back the power to print money, which will mean that the deficit in the budget of the state of California will become the national debt. In other words, we'll have unlimited ability to spend like the federal government has unlimited ability to spend. Any deficit between the expenditure and the taxes becomes printed money or then an increase in the national debt. So the state of California should have
Thank
the
you.
ability to extend
Professor.
their deficits to become part of the national debt. And that's where I will make the change as governor, or
Thank
try
you,
to
Professor.
propose this change as governor.
Okay. Sorry, we have a hard stop in 3 minutes. In order to be fair, I'm going to give the remaining 3 minutes to Fuji Shioura, given that candidate Wade spoke for about 3.5 minutes. Fuji Shioura, your response, and then we will end the debate.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Frank Henry Wade made some very compelling arguments, very fascinating and intriguing. But we live in a different era, and the Belt Road Initiative from China, it is very real. It's going forward. I think we have to look at Afghanistan, how basically they're taking over Afghanistan, China, because of the mineral resources there, and using Pakistan as a Beltway Road Initiative. This will also help fund their version of a cryptocurrency in China and other parts of the world. So China has been using cryptocurrency for many years now in some form or fashion. And so technology is complicated, it is confusing. And because it's decentralized, creates a lot of confusion when compared to traditional currency that used to be backed by what we call gold. So I do believe cryptocurrency is real. It has a place in our monetary markets. It will gradually grow in dominance. Which particular cryptocurrency will be predominant? Yet to be seen. We don't know. This is really the Wild West at the moment in the technological frontier. Will it be China's cryptocurrency? Would it be ours? Or will it be my cryptocurrency that is based on California, Taiwan, China, and perhaps other countries? Joint cryptocurrency. I do believe that now is the time to have a cryptocurrency for example, going back to Palestine, to give them a form of independence. And so cryptocurrencies are real. And there are dangers. There are real fiscal unpredictabilities that have been proven in the past few days alone, let alone weeks and months. So this is going to be a very prolonged, difficult discussion. Cryptocurrency will exist. And so I encourage all candidates to join the debate, to join this on cryptocurrency and demystify the complexities of some of the cryptocurrencies, because it is a technologically ever-changing platform. And I do believe in the power of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has consistently performed very well, and sometimes not, but it has been there. It has not been taken out of the equation. Bitcoin has not been taken out of the discussion. Other cryptocurrencies are still in the discussion. And yes, there have been financial disasters for so many investors, and that's something to take heed of. But now is the time to have an entire debate on cryptocurrency. I believe every candidate running for public office from the local municipal level to the county level to the state level and the federal level should have an entire discussion on cryptocurrency because it is real. Imagine a cryptocurrency from California based on Latin America. How powerful would that be? It would be great. It'll be a unified currency and will unify our markets and society and communities. And I do agree with the president of El Salvador in using cryptocurrency alongside a US dollar in El Salvador to give poor residents access to some form of monetary sustainability. In some more poor rural localities, there's no banks, there are no loans. Cryptocurrency allows this to occur. And while there's so much work need to be
Thank
done to
you.
make it bigger, we will do it. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends our debate now. Thank you both for being here. We hope to see you at the 1 o'clock standard recall candidates debate starting in a few minutes. Have to end this debate to go to that. Thank you both for being here. And if any candidate would like to debate any other candidate, we always look forward to it.